Good evening, CAN TV viewers. Thank you for tuning in to the Doty Report on Comprehensive Health. This is a segment of the Georgia Doty nonprofit organization, and our goal with this segment is to bring health information, resources, connections, and just have overall conversation that is pertinent and relevant to the community and the betterment of living healthier in our communities. Let me first start off by saying my name is Yolanda Gibbons, and will be your host, or at least one of your hosts over the next 12 weeks. Our founder and CEO is Mr. Ronald Doty, aka Don Doty, and hey, Mr. Doty, how are you? And we are excited about returning to CAN TV for the next 12 weeks. So we're just going to have a good time. Callers, please feel free to call in if you have any questions. Again, you are tuning in to the Doty Report on Comprehensive Health. We will be here for the next 12 weeks every Monday at 7:30 p.m. So let's get started with tonight's dialogue, conversation. I have two guests that I'm excited about. Our topic, we're going to be talking about pain management, cannabis, marijuana. I say marijuana, but we're going to have a conversation about, we know what's going on about the use of it as it relates to pain management. So let me first introduce our two guests, and we will get right into the conversation. Again, please, callers, feel free to call in if you have any questions. That's what they're here for. The experts over here to answer your question. First, we have Dr. Frank Vaught returning. He was here with us back in December or November, and he was hot because we got a whole lot of phone calls. He had great conversation. The viewers, you guys really did enjoy him. Dr. Vaught is the founder and owner of Health on Earth Wellness Center. He is a chiropractic physician, and he's a veteran. And I did that shout out because one of the target populations for Georgia Doty is veterans. So we are excited to have Dr. Vaught. We welcome.
Yes, excited to be here.
And next to him is first time on the Doty Report, Mr. Richard Park. Is that right, Richard Park?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks
Mr.
for
Park
having me.
has worked in the cannabis industry since 1997. He helped open the first medical cannabis dispensary in Denver. He has been a grower, a consultant, extractor. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And he opened a dispensary here in the state of Illinois, Dispensary 33, in 2015, where he now serves as a consultant over operations. Is that correct? That's
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Again, this is the Doty Report on Comprehensive Health, so we are going to get right into this conversation. So I am going to start by asking the question of what's the difference between chiropractic, marijuana, and the treatment for pain?
In my industry, I know opioids tend to everything has a purpose. Mm-hmm. I'll say everything has a purpose. In other words, opioids tend to have a lot more long-lasting effects as far as side effects. I mean, in an emergency situation, they're phenomenal, but the research has shown that they do have addictive type things that occur when you take them for a period of time. And with what I do with chiropractic, it just happens to have no side effects. All of the new research I've read about marijuana or cannabis, there really isn't anything on as far as the long-term effects, mm-hmm. But more so the benefits. Mm-hmm. I would say that it's more so that not even it having an addictive type of qualities to it, except for the fact they say if there is addiction, they say it's mental, but I believe that once you give your cells a certain amount of things, they do crave them. The only research I've read about cannabis is children or young people utilizing it as youth as far as development. But that would be my take on the three. So the opioids being the most dangerous, and unless an emergency situation, you don't want to take them.
Okay.
And chiropractic having no side effects besides the benefits of restoration. And the new thing is the cannabis. I mean, it's really been it's come on the scene with a bang.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. Most healthcare practitioners that I speak with are going to say things like, opioids aren't really designed for long-term use, right?
Okay.
To be used over 10 or 15 years or something like that. And we have a real problem in the country with chronic debilitating pain that we have no solutions for. I think that's one aspect of why cannabis is working so well. When it comes to pain management, we have a decent body of research that goes all the way back to the mid-70s, right? As far as neuropathic pain in HIV patients go, aiding nausea in cancer patients, different forms of musculoskeletal pain. So I think it's super effective. We also tend to think it's a quality of life decision. A lot of opioids, especially when you get to the really potent stuff like fentanyl, they have long-term side effects that people are not willing to continue to deal with, especially if there's a milder, and I say milder, kind of alternative like cannabis. According to the DSM-5 addiction rates, or what they call dependence rates, are something like 6%. But like Dr. Vaught said, it's not entirely clear what kind of dependence that really is.
Psychosocial.
Exactly. It's really hard to compare to something like heroin or oxy or fentanyl or something like that. And most people don't need me to tell them that, right? Most people are familiar enough with cannabis to understand that inherently it's not a dangerous drug.
Right. So what would be a situation where a patient or someone in pain would be better referred to chiropractic versus maybe cannabis use?
In my opinion, we take a holistic kind of approach to healthcare, and I don't think that you have to choose between the two. I think that a lot of our patients, we would find are using both. Chiropractic as well as cannabis, as well as a healthy lifestyle, as well as exercise, as well as stretching, right? I think in Western medicine, a lot we're really focused on certain pathways to treatment, but chronic pain is different. It's not like breaking your arm. We're not entirely sure how we're supposed to deal with chronic pain. And so what we always say is, don't try stuff like cannabis last, like chiropractic last, right? You should try these sorts of things first because they're less invasive than other forms of healthcare.
And I would agree if we took the whole aspect of health and turn it around instead of going to the emergency things that we do as far as procedures first, and we did things that were more palliative. With working within your health, with restoring it and with wellness, you would see a huge difference. Because I don't prescribe the medical marijuana, I do have patients that do ask questions about it, and one of the things that when talking with my practice members, I always let them know about choice. It's your choice. So.
Okay, so hold that thought for a second because we have a caller. Okay, caller, what's your question?
Yeah, I have two questions. One is how do I apply for a cannabis card, and what is some of the medical conditions that the cannabis does help and prevent?
Okay, two good questions. One is how does one apply for a medical card or cannabis card, and what are some of the conditions that are eligible
Sure.
for that?
So the way to apply for a cannabis card is through the Department of Health. You need something from a physician called a written certification that just certifies that you have one of 43 qualifying conditions. The more common conditions that we see are things like PTSD, fibromyalgia, cancer, MS, multiple sclerosis. The application process is a little bit cumbersome compared to other places. What I would recommend is that you check out the website ChicagoCannabisAlliance.org. It's a nonprofit group that helps people sign up for cards. Or you can, give us a call at Dispensary 33 or call the Department of Health. The basic process is get the certification from your physician, turn in an application to the Department of Health, and then take a fingerprint background check, and then they'll issue you a card. Once you have a card, you can go into any dispensary in the state.
Okay, good info. So, Dr. Vaught, it sounds like I heard you talking more about preventive and just healthy living versus after the fact. Can you just talk a little bit more about that and give some recommendations or any tips to our viewers?
Absolutely. Well, one of the biggest things that we do as far as with chronic pain and like you were saying with as far as with that there's no solution oftentimes to these chronic pains, and oftentimes with chronic pain it's usually coming from a stimulus that's in your everyday life. It's things that you're either involved in, there's stresses environmentally, they're things that we're eating, they're things that we're not ingesting or putting in our body. Regular habits. When I talk with my practice members about having good health, I don't tell them health is a place to land or is a specific schedule that you can have. Health is a lifestyle.
Right.
It's things that you do on a daily basis, every single day that you incorporate in your life that help you to rid yourself from a lot of the chronic problems, a lot of chronic disorders, a lot of chronic diseases, and they're simple things. Simple things. One of the three things that I always recommend for all of my patients or practice members, and the things that are oftentimes that seem like to be smart or easy, is just proper hydration. I think 70% of the people are dehydrated.
Yeah.
You can go and smell people's breath and know that they're dehydrated. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, you're supposed to be drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. And of course, if you're on medications or if there's different instances where you can't, but hydration is the biggest key. Movement and activity. At least 20 to 30 minutes of just movement, cardiovascularly. The American Heart Association says will reduce heart disease by 89%. I mean, you're talking about cardiovascular disease decrease, and it's the number one killer in the United States. So when we talk about it's the simple things. That's just activity and drinking water. You stop eating things that say partially hydrogenated or complex carbohydrates. A diet that's chock full of that. You'll decrease diabetes, heart disease, and a lot of the chronic problems. Just from your activities, your daily life activities. And the things that you allow in your space.
Right. Good info. Good tips. This is the Doty Report on Comprehensive Health. We are talking about pain management. We're talking about the use of cannabis and that. So I'm going to shoot over to you, Richard. Why is this such a hot topic about the use of marijuana medically?
I mean, I think it's a hot topic because, like we said before, chronic pain is so difficult to deal with. I think there's a couple of aspects. One, there's like a socio-political aspect, right? The drug war is failing, right? If it hasn't already failed. A large segment of what we focus on in the drug war has been cannabis prohibition, right? I think we've reached a point, like the last couple of surveys that have come out from gosh, I can't remember the name of the companies right now. But something like 60% of the country has admitted to trying cannabis. We're at a point now where the population that exists now grew up in an era where cannabis wasn't demonized, right? In like the 30s and 40s, you saw these reefer madness ads that people like my grandparents believed, that you could smoke cannabis and you would have some kind of psychotic break. We know that this is kind of ridiculous government propaganda, right? In 1985, Ronald Reagan said the single greatest threat to America was cannabis use. In 2008, President Obama said, that of course he inhaled. That was the point. So I think we've come a long way on a socio-political spectrum. I think we're also, because of the opioid crisis and the kind of overprescription of opioids and what that leads to, and even with street opioids, we've kind of reached a tipping point where we need another solution. And I think that's a big part of it too.
Okay, good info. We have another caller. Caller, go ahead. What's your question?
Yes, hi. I had a question about the medicinal cannabis. I know that I've heard that there are forms where you don't have the sensation of being high. Can you tell me what those are?
Sure. I think what you're referring to is a cannabinoid, an element in cannabis called cannabidiol or CBD. CBD does not have psychoactive properties like something called delta-9 THC, which is what we really think about when we think about cannabis. I will say that CBD is not an analog. It can't replace THC. So it depends on what you're trying to address as to whether or not really high CBD levels will work. So, for example, people who have seizure disorder, epilepsy, they're generally treated with high ratios of CBD to THC, somewhere in the order of 20 to 1, 25 to 1. That does not cause psychoactivity. It doesn't get you high. This is, like what we recommend for pediatric epilepsy patients. Certain patients with chronic inflammatory disease may benefit from like a long-term regimen of CBD that does not cause that psychoactivity. However, if you're dealing with acute pain, right, it hurts now, you want it to go away now, we find that those sort of CBD products aren't quite as effective as something with a moderate amount of THC. No matter what the ratio is, you always want some THC there. Without it, CBD does not do a lot of the stuff that it's supposed to. They work in conjunction with each other, and they're both what are called biphasic chemicals. They behave differently at low ratios to each other and high ratios to each other. So there are products like that. There are also topical applications, transdermal applications that can mitigate being high. Or that psychoactivity, but we need to get into more specifics to determine whether or not that was really something that was right for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling in. Again, this is the Doty Report on Comprehensive Health. This is a segment of the Georgia Doty Comprehensive Health nonprofit organization, and we are here. This is our first night back. Here at Can TV. We just definitely want to thank our viewers for tuning in. We will be here every Monday at 7:30 p.m. And we have our two guests. So when people say, Dr. Vaught, I hear people say, just go to the chiropractor. Well, what does that mean? Like just go to the chiropractor.
Well, it doesn't mean just pain. It's pain is something that chiropractic works really well with. In the design of chiropractic from the beginning, chiropractic was supposed to treat all diseases, known to man, due to the fact that it directly impacts the nervous system. So if the nervous system is clear and the body's functioning at its highest potential, it has the ability to fight off things. I mean, right now your body's fighting cancer, it's fighting heart disease, it's fighting pneumonia, it's fighting all these things, and it's doing it with this thing called an immune system.
Right.
So when your immune system is functioning at its highest level, what we do is we support it by making sure that the nervous system, which is your brain and spine, has clear pathways through, and it goes to your organ cells and tissues. If they're functioning, then it keeps you at a higher state of health. Now, it just so happens that when the nervous system is clear, the body's ability to actually have pain decreases as well. People think that pain is a bad thing, but the only people that don't have pain are people that are dead. Pain is an extremely important thing to show you that something is going on, something is wrong, and that's when you need to address it. But we look at it as the opposite: is if you have pain, you're at a bad state of health. When actually, when you have pain, it's telling you something that you need to address in your health. And chiropractic addresses those things or those areas and it helps to make the pain go away.
So, would having a chiropractic physician be something that we should be doing regularly? Like, should be a part of our wellness check? Is that something that shouldn't be just when I have a pain?
Well, the thing about that is it depends on the type of life that you live. Some people beat their bodies up. I mean, it's like, and it's kind of like we're all sitting here and we're kind of like if we were race cars, right? I mean, and we get on a track and we are high performance machines, right? We got the best oils, we got the best mechanics, okay? And we have the best equipment under the hood. Even though we have the best equipment, it still has to be maintenance. I mean, if you want to keep your teeth, what do you got to do with them? You got to brush them. You have to maintenance them. So if your spine literally is the protector of your entire nervous system, why wouldn't you maintenance it? And the only reason why we don't is because there's a big industry and there's a lot of money in surgery and there's a lot of money in staying sick. It's expensive. You can make a lot of money to keep people sick. And with chiropractic, what we do is by no drugs and no surgery, it enables us to support people in having a higher state of health and then also too the higher lifestyle. So that's why, with chiropractic. So it depends on really you, the type of life you lead, and then what you choose.
Right. So I'm gonna shift over to Mr. Park. And I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable enough, but I'm sure there's research since cannabis we've been able to use it medically. What are we seeing different from people? What is the stats on? Is it really helping, and is it really making a difference?
Sure. I think there's been a blockade to research for a while because it's a class 1 controlled substance, which means in order to do a research study, you need approval from the FDA, the DEA, and the NIH. The DEA usually blocks research unless it's trying to show a negative. Some of this is starting to change, but what we need is reclassification of the drug to get into real research in the United States. That being said, there's tons of research in Israel, in the UK, in the Nordic countries, and I have a hard time believing that the UK's research is so much worse than our own. Israel is a big leader in it, and here's one of the things that we know very well. When it comes to dealing with neuropathic pain, we have something like 70 human clinical trials, right? This is the gold standard of Western medicine. Human clinical trials, randomized, placebo-controlled, published in peer-reviewed journals, going all the way back to the mid-70s. So that's something that I'm very, very confident in, is its efficacy with dealing with neuropathic pain. Nobody doubts that it deals with nausea, right, in cancer patients. That's been fairly well studied. Nausea, wasting syndrome, things of that nature. One of the newer studies that we're seeing, which is very interesting, is, and it's more of a socio-political study, but it's finding that in states that have regulated medical cannabis programs, opioid deaths go down, like 17 or 18%. And we're finding that pretty consistently right now, too. On the future horizon of what we're really looking at are cannabinoids, right, the constituent chemical components in cannabis, in their treatment of seizure disorder, in their treatment of movement disorders like Parkinson's, and in their treatments of cancer. There are several animal models and in vitro studies that are showing that certain cannabinoids can cause apoptosis of certain cancer cells. That's programmed cell death. Now, we're far away from calling it a cure. Right now, we're in what we call preclinical trials. They're done on animals. They're done in test tubes. So they need to be taken with a grain of salt. But the amount of promise that's there is enormous, especially for a drug that is non-toxic, right? It would take you something like, it would take you something like 1,500 pounds you'd have to smoke in 15 minutes, right? The ratio of efficacy to overdose, right, is like 40,000 to 1, right? It's incredibly safe, which is what allows dispensaries like mine to exist, right? I can only make this recommendation because I know I'm not hurting you, right? At the very least, if I get it wrong, you're going to be hungry and tired and you know, but I've caused you no long term damage, which is why we always say it shouldn't be a last line treatment. It should be a first line treatment. Before you do something crazy invasive, why wouldn't you just try some cannabis, right? And it's different now. You don't have to smoke a joint or a blunt or the way that I kind of grew up with cannabis. You can take sublingual oils that are placed under the tongue. You can use vaporizers that aren't going to cause you to burn carcinogens and inhale those, right? Edibles, capsules. The application methods are kind of very wide and varied right now, and we find that it plugs in very well to a more like you were saying, a more holistic approach to healthcare.
Right.
And and then just to piggyback right off what he said, I just doing the research. They did a study with the opioid users, and literally 1/3 of all opioid users over a 3-month period stopped taking their medications because of harmful side effects, and that isn't something that you've seen with the in the cannabis industry. I believe that it does have a lot of problem. If it's killing cancer cells with no side effect, I think I'm looking forward to some of the research that's going to come out when.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff coming out right now about.
There's already research about it killing cancer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it already doing that. I mean,
so it's also helping opioid users with withdrawal symptoms.
Oh, wow.
CBD and THC, they play a role in the cascade of serotonin and dopamine and things like this, the reward centers that kind of cause the addiction of opioids. And one of the most amazing things that we see at our dispensary is people weaning themselves off of opioids without professional help, without my help, without consultation from their physician. They're just able to do it on their own, which we find fascinating.
Wow, good info. Like, I want to call my mom. I know she takes, she has pain because she's a stroke survivor, and now I want to know what it is she's taking for that pain. So now I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all got pain, and it's, in my opinion, all cannabis use is medicinal use. Whether psychological or physical.
But get adjusted first.
Absolutely.
Get adjusted.
Make sure you get your nervous system checked.
Because
if it's a pain that you can definitely manage naturally, take care of that first. And so you can. And so with the medical marijuana, these are the things for pain. Like we were talking about the chronic pain and things. That's why that's so critical.
I don't know, but yes, I don't. We are at the end of our show. This is yes. I'm going to the flyer. I got it. You did it for me. So the Georgia Doty organization is having an event real quick this Friday, April 6th at Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Chicago. It is a senior and veterans health, wellness, and employment forum from 11 to 3 p.m. HIV testing, Hep C testing, health screenings, special guests, entertainment, complimentary lunch. You don't want to miss it. Be there. It's free. We're targeting seniors and veterans, but it's open to the entire community. This is our first night back. We are excited. Thank you, viewers. We hope that you have received some informative information. Be back here next Monday, 7:30 p.m. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Boom.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.